Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Bradley Wolfe, and I'm going over chapter one in this textbook on Beyond the Podium, it's called. And it does a really great job of integrating AI speech and civic voice, looking at public speaking from a very contemporary perspective that looks at how AI can be positively and ethically used in public speaking, and also why it's so good for that humanity and for your own voice to be involved there, to have a civic voice and advocate for the things you care about. So this first section, I'm just going over chapter one of the textbook in this video. So why public speaking matters today. And I appreciate Dr. Petrosini, who wrote this chapter. So communication is about how we're making meaning of the world, forming relationships, and how it shapes the world around us. So this can be through storytelling, asking a question, presenting an idea, or even sitting in silence, right? We can just sit there and listen to the world around us. So it talks about public speaking, but it also talks about communication generally and AI mediated interaction, which is making it more complex, right? And how we're viewing things. So generative AI tools can assist, but sometimes mislead our voices, right? They can make us, change how we're saying things and how we're coming across if we're using it too much or in ways that aren't as ethical. Digital platforms alter how and when we are heard. And so it's important to be able to speak thoughtfully, listen actively, and build a shared understanding of our society. So this talks about public speaking. I had a student once who tried to make an AI generated speech. So they had, I don't know, ChatGPT or something make their speech and then they just read it. And it was awful, right? It was one of the worst speeches I've heard because we don't talk like a robot, right? We're not AI. If you just have AI make a speech for you, it's going to sound not like humans talk, right? You don't want AI making your speeches for you. So let me say that much first and foremost. But AI can be used in ethical ways to help refine your thoughts and ideas and give you feedback and perspectives on how to engage with people. So oftentimes, if I might draft something and then send it to AI, hey, what do you think? What are some thoughts? And then get some feedback on it and then rewrite it. You can see this entire textbook was actually developed and refined with AI tools, but it still was reviewed, edited, and curated by the authors to ensure accuracy, clarity, and alignment with learning objectives. So again, AI is a tool; it should not be doing the work for you, right? And it's not going to be done well if you try and get AI to do the tool to do everything for you. So public speaking definitely matters. There's a lot of ways to interact. So we can look at short form videos, TED Talks, graduation speeches, campaign rallies, startup pitches, Zoom meetings, advocacy campaigns, digital storytelling. I mean, my kids, they sit on their phones. So I'm watching these videos and scrolling through TikTok and other channels and just very short videos. You have a short amount of time to get your message out to your audience. Otherwise, you just swipe to the next one. And that's kind of how we communicate sometimes. People have shorter attention spans and want the information in a limited amount of time. So, how do you make effective messages for a limited amount of time and a limited amount of attention that people have? You can tell that I'm older because this textbook lecture is going to last a little bit longer than a TikTok video. So the next section of chapter one, why is communication important? So the world we live in is shaped by communication. Every relationship, every workplace, every community depends on our ability to share ideas, to listen actively, and collaborate. Your family system, the relationships that you need to be able to communicate with each other in order to have kind of effective and fulfilling relationships with other people. So certainly studying public speaking is going to help you if you have to give a presentation. But I have some students who tell me, hey, Dr. Wolfe, I'm never going to give a speech. Why would I want to take this class? It's so boring, right? And it still can help you communicate and refine your ideas in interpersonal conversations. If you're pitching an idea to your boss or saying, hey, this is going to be a more effective way of doing this, it's going to save some time, you need to pitch it in a way in which your boss is going to be convinced by your idea, or you may be stuck with a less than stellar process. So these tools that you learn in public speaking, if you want to give speeches, that's great. I have some students who are very effective. They like doing the speech competitions and are way into public speaking and love it. Other people, I'm an introvert, right? I'm fine public speaking. I give enough speeches or get a good degree in communication that I'm comfortable with public speaking. But I like listening, and there's that perspective of listening, even just listening to information. Studying public speaking can help you be a better listener and a better critique of the information that you're consuming. Especially online, there's so much misinformation that you need to be able to have a critical lens in order to see what is true and what is not. So there's different purposes for public communication. Often public speaking, we view it as to inform, to persuade, and to entertain or inspire. So informative speeches are just giving you insight and information on a topic. You're just maybe giving a presentation, offering training, reporting findings, whatever it may be. You're just trying to build understanding. Persuading is you're trying to influence how others think, feel, or act. And that's a core part of leadership and advocacy. So you may see persuasion in campaigns and pitches and conversations where you're trying to get folks to consider a new point of view. And then lastly, to entertain or to inspire. So if you're going to see like the Grammys, the Oscars, people give lots of speeches there. You go see a stand-up comedian, they're giving a speech, a graduation speech, wedding toasts. Those all could be in that entertain or inspire type of public speaking. So there's those everyday occasions in which you may be persuading someone, informing someone about your day. That you could think about, use public speaking concepts in those areas. So next section here, why take a course in communication? A lot of my students at the beginning of the semester, they're like, oh, I'm only taking this class because it's required and I have to. And then by the end of it, biggest compliment for me, but by the end of it, multiple times I've had students say, I'm really glad I took this course. I finally started to see how it was relevant to my life, and I'm using the content in it. It was a really good class. And I hope that's your experience as well, taking a communication course. But some examples of benefits from taking a communication course: you get stronger critical thinking, improved interpersonal and group communication, greater confidence, ethical awareness. So even listening to other perspectives and seeing how language can include or exclude or amplify or silence. Confidence is the biggest thing, right, for public speaking. I remember I had a class in high school where we had to give a speech. Must have been 10th grade, a speech assignment. I was way too anxious, and I'm like, I'm not doing the speech. And I did. I got a 0 on it because I was too anxious to even go up and give a speech. And now I'm teaching public speaking. So I've come a long way. And it's okay if you're here and you're like, oh, I'm super nervous, I can't give a speech. That's way, public speaking is one of the biggest fears in the United States. But that's okay, right? I always love meeting students where they're at. I'm going to meet you where you're at. I'm going to work with you. And you're going to have greater confidence by the end of it. You may not have the greatest confidence, but it's going to be more than when you started. We're going to get you comfortable with public speaking. And here's one of the reasons I picked this textbook. It talks about how AI impacts communication. So throughout it gives lots of great information here. So AI can help you brainstorm ideas. It can analyze a tone or summarize arguments, but also raises some challenges about authorship, authenticity, and attention. So who is the communicator when AI drafts a message? How do algorithms affect what's getting seen or heard? And how do we responsibly use our voices? Are they amplified or erased by digital platforms? So using AI literacy along with learning public speaking can help you, make sure you're using it ethically if you're going to use it, and make sure you're still owning your own voice and your own perspective. So by the end of the course in public speaking, you're going to be able to speak clearly and effectively. You're going to be able to listen actively and reflectively, adapt messages to different audiences, use technology, including AI, responsibly, and think critically about the role that communication uses to shape society. So there's a process of public speaking about how the message gets transmitted. So there's the message, the skill, and the presence through the core components of the way they're framing it here. And of course, there's different ways of framing it. These are all theories, and this is just one of the theories on how to frame it. So the message is the content of what you say. It must be clear, coherent, and meaningful. And a strong message should be tailored to the audience and supported by credible evidence. If your audience can't follow or relate to your content, they're going to tune out, even if you have a really polished delivery, right? Like, how does this relate to me? Think about your audience. Keep them in mind when crafting your message. Then skill talks about both verbal and nonverbal elements. So your voice, gestures, eye contact, pacing, and use of space contribute to how your message is received. I've had students, if I'm teaching public speaking online, I have students who are, make their video and then they're super far away, so you can't even see them. You're like way back here. And I'm like, how can I see you in this online? Think about your online audience. Because often I ask them to have an in-person audience too. And maybe they're presenting well for the in-person audience, but it's not as good for them. I had one student once turn the camera towards the audience and I couldn't even see them. And it's like, come on now. I want to see you. I want to see, how are you communicating with your online audience? So think about that. For me, I want to dress in a collared shirt and look kind of professional and, halfway professional. I'm not super professional, but I do have a doctorate and I have 4 master's degrees. So I'm knowledgeable on the topic. But again, Just because I'm knowledgeable and know a lot of things and took a lot of classes doesn't mean that I'm going to be seen as credible if I don't try and present myself in a way that's credible as well. Like I come here into my office at work, I put a collared shirt on, so I think about those things. It's not perfect, right? I'm not like a content creator. I'm not here for a bunch of likes and hits. I'm here to provide meaningful, inform the audience about public speaking. But again, it's those things you have to think about, that skill that you have to use to communicate effectively. And then presence. So audience respond when speakers are engaged and invested in what they're saying. Passion, curiosity, urgency, and care can help draw people in. When your message matters to you, it is more likely to matter to others. I always tell my students, pick a topic that you care about. If you don't care about the topic, neither is your audience, right? They're not going to care. You can figure out how to connect it to your audience if you pick something you're passionate about. If you have this really unique interest that no one else is interested in, how can you connect it to your audience, right? Doesn't mean don't pick it just because your audience may not be interested in it, but how can you connect it to them? Start with picking something you are interested in, you can get invested in, that you'll have fun talking about. This next section here, you can try this on your own. I encourage you to. So you'll be able to compare your own communication style with AI-generated version of the same message. So it has a step, write your message, then use the AI tool, then compare and reflect, and then you can get a summary of your responses as well. So it's a good activity to see how AI is going to be different from your own voice. And you also, this is about writing and typing. We talk differently than we write. So you may want to be thoughtful about that as well. That this is just comparing written voice to AI generated written voice, but you may talk differently. So I always encourage students, don't write out a script. I know if you're like on the speaking circuit and competitive speaking, they write out scripts, but then they edit it and put the pauses in there and everything else. For a 101 public speaking class, that's a lot of work to write out a good script that is written in the voice of how people talk. So often I just say, hey, write an outline, get your key points in there, maybe write a few key phrases that you're going to say and rehearse them so they sound natural to you, and then maybe edit it, speak it out loud and say, hey, is this how I talk? Is this easy to understand? And then edit it from there. But again, so use that, try it out, practice with some AI. This textbook has lots of cool little tools and activities for you to do to practice with AI. If you've never been engaged with it before, this is a great way to do it. So then we can look at models of communication, from the interactional model to the transactional model. So our interactional model is one-way communication. There's a source, I'm the source, the message is what I'm saying, the channel is through this online video that I'm posting, and you are the receiver. One-way communication. It's been going around for a long time as a model. It's my fingers, I pressed the wrong button. I got a new laptop, which is very nice of the college to get me a new laptop, but the keyboard is laid out a little differently. So my fingers are just a little bit off. Then there's the transactional model. So that's the, oh my goodness, sorry, I threw myself off. That's the interactional model is the one-way flow of communication. And then the transactional model is having sender receiver some feedback. So there's a shared context. We are learning public speaking together in that context. We have a shared field of experience. I've worked with a lot of students before. I kind of hopefully know how to frame things in a way that students are going to understand. There's a message that I'm being sent. There's also feedback I receive. So if you want to send me an email and say, hey, Dr. Wolfe, or put a comment on the video, hey, Dr. Wolfe, this is what I was thinking, that's feedback they receive. There's that loop. Hey, maybe you could slow down. That's one of the things. If I get excited about a topic, I start talking faster. And so, hey, Bradley, slow down, right? I get that feedback sometimes from students. So take a deep breath and slow down. So there's that feedback that you can receive. There's also noise. So if you're watching this video while also being on your phone, or also having your dog barking in the background, there may be noise distracting you from my message that I don't hear, right? I got myself in a nice quiet location, but you may have that noise and not be able to fully appreciate the message, which is fine. That's how it happens, right? That's how things are. And then here's some more AI insight into those models. So AI works mainly as a sender's tool to help with messaging design or distribution. But algorithms can get some feedback and filter things that prioritize and amplify some voices over others, and subtly influencing what your audience hears and how they interpret it. So be careful, because if you're using AI too much, you may be just kind of amplifying that algorithm to a wider audience, even if they're not using AI, right? You're sending that AI algorithm to them as well. So be careful on how you're curating information. Then this also talks about the role of experience and identity. So we have different identities, cultures, backgrounds, and beliefs that bring us to a situation. This is especially important when talking with diverse or unfamiliar audiences. Just thinking about the diversity that people have. You may just look at someone and assume things about their experience, but that's only like skin deep, right? There's a lot more to every person. Your work experiences, lived experiences, certainly our culture impacts who we are, how we dress, how we, those are parts of our identity, right? Our gender that you read me as, my race that you read me as. I put a doctor in front of my name that has a part of my identity because I have my doctorate, and that may impact how people view me. But there's a lot more to people than just those things that would go on a resume or would go on a demographic survey. So it's important to really think about that field of experience that people may have. Then there's a little activity to practice transactional thinking. So briefly describing a conversation and answering some questions to analyze it, which can be very helpful in thinking about how the communication process is. So I encourage you to engage with that activity. See, not all this fits nicely in a lecture, which it's good to have an interactive textbook. So I encourage you to go into the textbook and work with that because it makes it more than just reading or just listening. Then there's the dialogic theory of public speaking, which argues that public speaking should be understood as a dialogue and not a monologue. So again, dialogue is more natural than a monologue. Even formal speeches often will involve some feedback like nods, eye contact, reactions, or questions that shape how speakers adjust their tone, pacing, or message. If everybody in your audience is staring at their phone and ignoring you, maybe you'll get more nervous. Maybe, oh no, I'm screwing this up, right? Or it may encourage and motivate you to try a different approach. Right, if I'm teaching and my students are checked out, it's like, hey, maybe we should stretch and take a break, right? Maybe we all just need a little break, walk around, get some water, and then we'll come back to it when we can focus. So again, it's reading that audience and figuring out how to adapt with the amount of time that you have. So meaning lives in people, not words. So a word may seem clear to you, but could carry a very different meaning for someone else. So shared meaning must be constructed and not assumed. So if I'm speaking to someone and they don't speak English, they're not going to understand what I'm saying. Or once I joined a Facebook group, I forget what the Facebook group was, but I was messaging people and trying to reach out, posting a job posting for a previous job. I was trying to help get someone hired in northern Minnesota. So I posted this, I think it was an indigenous group in northern Minnesota, and the person wrote back to me, "Boozhoo," and I read it. Again, it was written. I read it as bozo. I'm like, why are you calling me a bozo? What did I do wrong? I'm not trying to offend anyone. But boozhoo is just hello in Anishinaabe, right? They were just saying hello to me, but I didn't know Anishinaabe, so I didn't know what they were saying. So I misinterpreted it as them calling me a bozo until I figured out what they were saying. But it was in written text, so I didn't react right away, and it was fine. But again, it's just taking time to understand just maybe a few words in another culture can have a big difference, right? A big difference in how you communicate with them and create meaning together. The context matters, so our words take different meaning depending on the social, cultural, or historical moment. A joke, a metaphor, or reference might resonate in one setting and fall flat in another. So that's important to think about as well. Who is your audience and what context do they have? What shared context do we have? Again, think about those things. So communication and context, there's a physical context, the actual space where communication happens. So I'm in my office. This is my physical space. You can look around your physical space. Where are you? Are you in a living room, a bedroom, on your phone, and maybe sitting in a classroom, listening to this on your own, whatever it may be. You have a physical context. I have a physical context that impacts how this communication is occurring. There's also the temporal context, so the time of day, the sequence of events. Right, it is just afternoon for me. Right here, I had a snack before this, so I wouldn't get too hungry because this is normally my lunchtime, but I wasn't 100% ready for lunch. So again, it's impacting me. Maybe you have hunger or something else going on. Maybe you're tired after a long day and just trying to get this video done. Maybe you're doing this when you're, first thing in the morning when you're fully attentive, or you're doing it first thing in the morning when you're still tired and can't fully pay attention. Right? We all have different contexts in which we may be communicating with each other. Then there's the social and psychological context. So it includes relationships, roles, group norms, power dynamics, expectations, and emotional climate. The emotional climate can influence how a message is received, right? I'm a teacher. I'm in a position of power. If I'm assigning you to watch this video, you may be more likely to watch it than if you were just doing it on your own, right? So again, it's that context can impact. And it can impact how well you're paying attention. If you know, oh, I have a quiz after I watch this video, I should pay attention so I can get all the information from this and do well on the quiz, right? That may impact how you're listening to the video as well. You may be taking notes, you may be very studious, or you may not care as much. Again, it depends on how you approach class, and that's fine, right? It's your class, so you get to approach watching this video however you want. And then there's the cultural context, shaped by cultural norms, traditions, language patterns. I speak with a Midwestern accent because I was born and raised in Minnesota. Certainly, if I was from somewhere else, I may speak with a different accent. I may use different words and language patterns. But it's just good, again, good to have that cultural awareness. And again, me talking fast, I've heard, especially if your English isn't your first language, that when I get excited about things, that can be harder to understand just because I'm talking faster. So it's good to really be aware of the audience and where they may be coming from. So then a little bit more about AI. So artificial intelligence is changing how we can communicate, especially with the algorithm amplification on social media. So things are not neutral. So it's good to understand AI just from the content we're consuming and how these algorithms are impacting us. So it's good to be a critical listener and critical viewer, consumer of information in that way. So the interactional model, AI might serve as a tool that helps create or send a message, generating text, suggesting phrasing, or analyzing tone. In the transactional model, AI becomes more complex. Platforms sort messages, shape responses, and influence engagement, meaning it's co-created not only with people, but also with the systems that filter, track, and respond to communication. So it's interesting to think about. So the next is the conclusion of this chapter. Conclusion beyond the podium. So public speaking is more than a performance skill. It's a way of participating in the shared making of meaning in the world. So whether you're presenting research, rallying a community, telling a story, or engaging in dialogues across differences, the choices you make as a communicator will shape how others think, feel, and act. So this textbook is talking about the influence that you have, and it doesn't end when the speech is over. Your words ripple through conversations, decisions, and relationships long after they're spoken. So communication functions in both everyday contexts and informal contexts, and technology, including AI, changes the way that we create and share messages. You may also begin to see the effective public speaking requires more than just technique, right? It demands awareness of context, openness to dialogue, and ability to adapt, especially in the rapidly shifting media environment. If you're posting things online or trying to engage online, things change all the time, and it's hard to stay up to date with all the news and information that's out there as well. If you're studying, presenting a speech, you may get something new at the last minute, and like, oh shoot, how do I incorporate this or not incorporate it? How do I acknowledge it or not acknowledge it? Those are things to keep in mind. So in a world where voices can be amplified, silenced, or reshaped by human and algorithmic forces, how we speak and the values guiding those choices matter as much as what we say. So we're going to explore the ethics of the next chapter is about the ethics of communication, and how we can build understanding rather than division, and how does this impact an AI-mediated world. Can I press the wrong button on the keyboard? So again, thank you to the author who wrote this this chapter, and also the different sources that they used. So thank you for listening. I'm going to make videos for the other chapters as well. I hope you find this engaging and meaningful. Always feel free to reach out to me, either through the comments on the video or send me an email. And again, it's an interactive process with communication and public speaking. I'm always here to support students and support learners how to become better public speakers. So you take care. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you around.